We are very lucky to have the Marty Sport Coach of the Year, Zanele Mdodana, on board today to share with us some of her wisdom in the coaching sphere. Oh, she's even brought the trophy with. Fantastic, Coach.
Not rubbing it in, not rubbing.
Cool. So just a reminder to everyone who is attending, if you can just keep your microphones on mute, please, as well as your video feed off, so that we can just have a kind of an interrupted, free conversation with Coach Zan. If you do have any questions, please post them in the meeting chat. I do plan on finishing at about 10 to 4, and then we've got 10 minutes for questions at the end if there are any questions for Coach Zan. There will be a recording available of this chat. It will be posted on Marty Sports various social media platforms, as well as their YouTube channel. So if you weren't able to join now during this time slot, you will be able to still catch up on the chat a bit later at a time that suits you a bit better. So without further ado, I am going to share my screen and we can get going. Okay, Zan, can you see my screen? Has it come through on your side?
I can see it.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks, Zan, for joining us. It's a real honor and privilege having you on the Connected Coaches series, and I'm sure everyone who's attending today is gonna definitely pick up some pearls of wisdom from you. Coach, I thought that we could just start off the conversation with you just giving us a little bit of insight into your journey as a coach. We all know that you were, a player for the Proteas, and that transition from being a player to being a coach, and that journey to eventually ending up at Stellenbosch University as Marty's Netball's head coach. It'll be great if you can just tell us your story.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's great to be with everyone today, this afternoon. I don't normally get nervous, but I'm extremely nervous today because I think it's because I'm speaking about something that's very dear to my heart. Well, as most people know, I started, in the national team in 2005, and then I retired in 2015 with 89 caps for the SPAR Proteas. And then I was at the Nelson Mandela University. Then I worked there as a sport manager for many years, and then I was also playing netball for the university, but also then became an assistant coach under Coach Lana Krieger, who is still the current Nelson Mandela University head coach. But before then, I was coaching at schools around Port Elizabeth, Victoria Park High School, collegiate, just doing something extra on the side, even though I was a sport manager at NMMU. And then I became an assistant coach under Coach Lana for the Madibas. And that's where basically I learned a lot about coaching because as much as I was the assistant coach, she really gave me a lot of opportunity to sort of lead and take ownership. And then I was afforded the opportunity by the Eastern Cape to coach the under-21 side, which is made up mainly of players from Port Elizabeth, East London. And then we represented the Eastern Cape at the national champs for 2 consecutive years, and we won a bronze medal both years. Okay. And then, fortunately enough, I was also I actually applied for it to coach the Fast 5, to be the assistant coach for Fast 5, because it's a new format. I didn't quite understand the tricks of that format. And then Netball South Africa appointed me 2017, 2018 to be the assistant coach. And I was assistant coach to the first year to Dr. Elsha Jordan. And then I was the current under-21 national coach. And then I was assistant coach the following year in 2018 under Dorette Badenhorst, who's the current SPAR Proteas head coach. So then 2017, boom, here's an opportunity. I'm on my leaving Port Elizabeth. Have never left PE, born and bred in PE, studied there, worked there, never been far away from my family, my parents, my son, and then got this amazing opportunity to come to the University of Stellenbosch. And in 2017, I started here, and I'm still here up until now.
And we are very glad you decided to escape PE and come down to Stellenbosch so that you can share your wisdom with the players. I think it's fantastic having a coach that's gone through the university system. I think it gives you a unique insight into what your players go through. That experience of spending time at Madiba's and playing netball while balancing your studies. How was that for you?
Yeah, so I studied sport management, and I must say I was very fortunate to have really understanding lecturers, Mr. Oosthuizen, Jaco Skuman, Advocate Newton. Those are as much as they understood that the academic side was important, they also knew that I loved my sport and I was a national player. So they allowed me to, for example, write a sick test, or if I'm traveling with a team, I can hand in my assignments when I come back. There was a lot of leniency and support. So I could get that balance, and I could manage to play for South Africa and still also graduate in record time, if I could put it that way. And I played most of my netball, obviously, in that indoor center at Madiba's, and I still get sensitive and nervous when I step in there, but I'm wearing maroon instead of navy and yellow. But yeah, that's where most of my netball was basically nurtured, and that's where I was groomed.
Okay, I think your picture is still on the wall there up at Madiba's. I remember the girls, I think, took a selfie one year when you guys went up to play there, and it was posted on the group that the Marty's head coach is still on the walls there at Madiba's. Coach, within your coaching journey, you've obviously had some fantastic opportunities and some platforms to do some work outside of Marty's sport. As a coach, through your work with Laureus and G Sport, how has being involved in those two organizations helped your coaching development?
So Grant, for me, I knew that I would retire, and I always knew that after retirement I really want to give back to the sport that gave so much to me. But I didn't think I would be outside of Port Elizabeth. I thought I'll do all of that when in PE, because that's where I grew up, and I know there's so much talent. The talent is great in Port Elizabeth, and I always had this vision and dream that so many people held my hands and walked the path with me and showed me the way until I became the best that I could be. And I felt that responsibility always also lies with me, for me to hold one or two girl children's hands and walk the path with them. So, and we know Laureus is like, it's using sport as a tool to empower and to better, a child's life. And when I was inducted in that organization in 2014, it was like I didn't even know what Laureus was at that time. And I mean it's not something you apply for. People sort of get to know of you, and they do their own little research background to check who you are, what you're about. And that's where my passion lies. My passion lies in using sport as a tool to better a child's life. And it's a great honor to be part of that organization. And then also, if you talk about G Sport, I've always been an advocate for women in sport, because for me, I played netball for the love of the game. I didn't have a massive bank account to show for it, even though I was representing my country. So that thing that G Sport does, which is to give recognition to the women in our country for their hard work, for their sacrifice, saying to them, we see you, well done. They might not get big checks at the end, but it's like, just to say thank you so much for flying South Africa's flag high, which is something that I'm a massive supporter and believer in.
That's awesome, Coach. And Coach, that picture on the right hand side there with those awards under your arm, 2019 was a very special year for you personally as a coach, as well as for your team. Picking up Coach of the Year at the Marty Sport Awards, as well as Team of the Year. How was that evening for you and that year for you as a head coach and with your team?
Yeah, so that was 2019, last year. It was a magical year. Magical year. I relive some of those moments today, going through some videos and pictures and sharing them with the girls on the group. You know, it took hard work to get there, Grant, and I think that's what people just see the results, but they don't know where we came from, as the Marty's netball team and the management team, what we had to put together, what we had to sacrifice, what we had to bring in to make sure that we can have a year like 2019. Not only from my side as a coach, but from my players' side, the sacrifices that they had to make, from management side, how we had to work together and really identify a common goal and work towards achieving that, that at the end of the day, we can all be happy and rejoice in the success of Marty's netball. And we had phenomenal results in 2019. One that really sits very close to my heart is that win in the semifinals against Sticks at USA. I watched that video this afternoon and I was laughing at myself and I was like, goodness. And one of my players still said, Coach, I still don't know how those jeans didn't tear. The way I did those tuck jumps, I was like jumping like crazy, because the thing is, if you look at when I came to Marty's in 2017, I've watched Marty's play because I do commentary for Super Sport. So I've watched them play. I've seen them play in semifinals. I've seen them play in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, in the final against Northwest. And one of the things that we identified when I came here was, our players there are these big teams that they are afraid of. If you talk about Tuks, it's like this elephant in the room. We would go into a game and we would have really lost the game before we even step on court. So we had to work through those processes. And when we went into that semifinal against Tuks, goodness gracious, I remember the coach of Tuks literally made this change that really took me by surprise. Mm-hmm. And I had to make a decision as a coach at that time. And that's when I realized that, because Adele wasn't with me, I was on my own on that day. And I sat there and I said, I have to make a decision. And I remember taking Stefanie Brandt off and taking Khumudzo Mamburu to goalkeeper and taking Sasha Lee Peterson, who actually is not a goal defense, but is a brilliant wing defense. So I needed someone who was going to stick to these fresh legs that she has just put in. And I just made that call and I just said, if this works, fantastic. If it doesn't, goodness me. And it worked like a charm, Fantastic. But there's so many people who got involved in making sure that we had the success that we had at USA. And specifically in that game, I remember Coach Mornay Kantonda standing in the corner and he was doing sign languages to me. And I'm just like, because I'm on my own. Adele's not with me, so I'm on my own. But the theme of that game was, if they go left, they go home. That was the theme. And we worked to get them as much to the left as possible. And the rest is history.
Awesome, Coach. I'm going to move on to onto our second slide, which is on your coaching philosophy. And I know that you have a very close relationship with one of your old teammates and now your assistant coach in Adele. I know you guys have walked a long road together, and the successes of the netball program is largely due to the relationship between the two of you. So can you give us a little bit of insight into your philosophy that you've brought to Stellenbosch and that you've applied within the Marty's netball program? I remember when you arrived there was a lot of work to do within the program, and it's flourished and got better and better and better each and every year as the program has grown. So what are that philosophy that you apply within the program?
Yeah, so for me, Grant, I believe, we know we're playing netball, but we are dealing with people. and their life is not only between the four lines. They have a life outside of the four lines. And as much as so I believe that a good coach can change a game, but a great coach changes a life. And that's what I want to be to my players. I want to change my players' lives for the better, because I was fortunate to have coaches whose philosophy this was, and that's what they did for me. And then I recently brought this, it was late last year, or beginning of late last year, brought in this Nate basic philosophy. This is something, it's a weird thing, but it's my it's something I actually dreamt about, and I realized that this is actually the answer to some of the many questions that I've had when netball is concerned. Because when I was a player, the coach did everything. Like, coach gave you the answers, and if you couldn't, and like we weren't really in a way empowered to think for ourselves and to be independent in our thinking and to come up with solutions, because netball is a quick sport. You've got 3 seconds to make a decision. There's no time for the coach to still signal to you, do this, do that. So if you don't empower your players to be able to be like that, then they'll never really be able to find the freedom to figure things out for themselves. So this net basic thing, so basic actually stands for something, so it's to create players who are brave, players who are athletic, players who are solution finders, who are independent thinkers and are creative. So that's something that I am very passionate about, and believe that the answers to winning championships lies in this. And then last but not least, I mean, this was my former director at the university, at the Nelson Mandela University, may he still rest in peace, Dr. Richard Stretch. This is something I believe in wholeheartedly, that, for our students and our athletes to have success in academics, success in sport, and ultimately have success in life. And I stole that basically from him.
Yeah, Dr. Richard Stretch was actually, when I was busy with my master's thesis, he was my external evaluator. So when I saw his quote there, it brought back fond memories of Dr. Stretch. So, Coach, working with as closely as you do with Adele, how important is it within your philosophy to get the right people around you as the head coach to support you and your vision for the team and your style of play and all of that kind of things?
So I'm extremely blessed, and I was so fortunate that when I came to Marty's, management didn't sort of say, okay, you're the coach, but these are the people that you're going to work with. I actually had the freedom to be able to choose people that I felt comfortable with, because for me, I've been in teams where the coach and the assistant coach absolutely are oil and water, and nothing worked. Or there's a manager that doesn't understand their role, and it was a disaster. And Adele and I come from way back. I mean, she's that one person who looks at me and tells me, don't be that person. Then I know, and I couldn't have chosen a better partner, a better friend, someone who's loyal, someone who understands me, someone when I'm wrong will correct me. And that's also very important, because you don't want someone who's always like, yes, 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 yes. And she, for me, arguably the best defensive player that South Africa's ever had. And I've had the privilege to play with her, to be roomies with her. And the one thing is, when we used to play, she used to say to me, because I was a wing defense and she was a goalkeeper. So when I'm not doing, so if a wing defense doesn't do their job, the goalkeeper can't turn ball. So this is my roommate, by the way. She'll come and say, do you want to be on court or do you want to be off? Like decide, are you going to work or do you want to bench? And then, but we'll still go into the room, because I loved that honesty, and that's how we got the best out of each other. So I knew having her next to me would be the best thing, and the players, the way the players respect her, because they've seen her, they know what she's about. So, and then if you look at the bigger Marty's netball management team, I mean, we brought in Coach Monet. I've got a brilliant team manager in Charlotte, who, for me, she knows when it comes to the admin side of things, I'm like, don't give me admin. Just, I don't want to deal with those things. But she's on the ball, and she makes our job so much easier, And then we got Heavy, we got Keegs, we've got Karen who now is in charge of netball. So everybody basically knows what they need to do, and everybody just does their job, you know.
Yes.
Then now we are like a well-oiled machine. You know, obviously there were teething things at the beginning, but now we are like a team, and everybody understands who they are in this team and then they put their best foot forward and do what they do best.
Coach, how important do you think it is for a head coach, whether it's at a high school or in a university setup or even in the professional setup, to have, you know, I don't want to call it a mentor, but a soundboard in the form of perhaps another coach? You know, how important do you think that is for your well-being as a coach? Because I've mentioned previously that coaching can be a very lonely place, you know, because they're very difficult and brave decisions that coaches need to make, and often they are forgotten. It's all about the players and all about the players, but we forget about the coach's well-being. How important is it for you to have, you know, some soundboards, you know, for you to touch base with and just, you know, get rid of some frustrations or you know, work out some solutions for you?
Yeah, very important, Grant, because I mean, I'm still wet behind the ears. You know, this is my first head coach position. I'm still learning so much. And I can tell you now, I'd rather be a player any day than to sit on that hot seat, because when things go wrong, it's your fault. When things go right, it's the brilliant players, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate because I really have, when I came to Marty's, I did ask for example, I did want Sandra, was a former Marty coach, to be my mentor, someone who I knew, understood the Marty setup and everything. But she was unfortunately mentoring another coach who's also part of the varsity coaches. So it would actually be a conflict of interest. But I have Elise Kotza, who was my national coach. She's the person I sort of throw things on her desk and I say, Coach, this is what's happening. How do I approach this? And very involved in what we do here at Marty's, in the sense that she'll always be watching our games. And after a game, she'll be the person sending me texts, guiding me, calling me, saying, Zanny, please make me understand. Why did you make this decision? Why did you make this substitution? All those kind of things. And in a mentor, and that's one thing about me, I want someone who's going to be truthful to me, who's going to tell me, I think that was a blunder, you know, but make me understand why you made that decision. Not someone who's going to be soft and sort of hold me like a little egg. I want someone who's going to be straightforward with me, because I feel that's the only way I can learn, you know. And then obviously with Adele and I, we've basically bounced things off each other, because we have a very similar understanding of how we want things to be done. But sometimes, you know, she's the person that will open my eyes to something that I am maybe not seeing. So I'm also very fortunate in that sense. And I have Lana, but then Lana becomes a bit tricky because she was my coach and I played with her, but then she's also the Madiba's head coach.
Yeah.
So at some stage, I'm going to play against her. So then it becomes a bit of a, but for other things, like when we have national championships and I'm coaching a Cape Winelands team, she'll be someone that I'll bounce things off.
Fantastic, cool. So we're gonna move on to the next slide, and let's just go across here. Okay, and this is just your experience with working with student athletes. You know, I mean, that picture on the bottom left was a very special moment for you, and I'm sure it's you know, brings back some good memories. But your experience with working with student athletes, how is it different from working with, you know, let's call it older adults, people in let's say their late 20s, or working with junior school kids or high school kids? You know, what makes it tricky, or what makes it unique for you?
Well, for me, considering the fact that when I came to Marty's, this was my first head coach job. So I had to be the one sort of like make the decisions. The egg sits on your face, basically, you know. I'm blessed, very, very blessed to work with talent that is unbelievable. My players are absolutely unbelievably brilliant. They really are, you know. And sometimes you ask, what's the point of having a coach when the players are so good, they can always go to the internet, Google stuff, and do it themselves. But I understand that we're working with students. What's important is that they are here to study first. They study and they play netball. So it's not the other way around, So our approach is we make sure that our players pass, because if they don't pass, they can't be in the university. Therefore, they can't play netball for us. So we're very, very flexible in our approach, and we have a very open door policy where players are able to say, Coach, I'm writing an exam tomorrow, or I've got a massive test. Can I just be excused from training tonight? I will make up the session. We've got to be that, we have to accommodate them. It's very important. And we also try and not be so strict that players can't actually come to you and say, I'd like to miss a session. But what we've instilled in them is that if they say they're going to miss a session and you allow them to, they have to have the discipline to make sure that they catch it up. So that has been quite nice. I've got a very close relationship with almost all my players, especially my senior players. I believe, because that's how my coaches were, I believe that it's not enough for me to expect them to arrive at a training session and I'm just worried about what they do between the four lines, and I don't really care what happened before they came or what's happening at home. I think you need to look at the holistic picture of the player. This is a human being first and foremost. And my players laugh, and a lot of people laugh at this, but I know most of my players who they are in relationships with, because I found it's the strangest thing for me, because when I was in university, I didn't have such serious relationships. Some of them are in relationships for 7 years. I'm like, how? But these guys who are in their lives play such an important part that I'll give you an example that one player of mine, very brilliant player of mine, we were just not finding each other. And I didn't hesitate to make contact with the parents, have a coffee with the parents and find out what's going on. And then I also called the boyfriend to meet with the boyfriend, and understand. And you'll be surprised how well the boyfriends know the girls. And then they sort of coach, no, well, don't worry, I'll do the talking, I'll sort it out. Before you know it, players back at her best, to her best. So I always say to them, when it's varsity netball, I look or they're coming, if we have training and I see new faces and I say, who's this? I need to know who's this now. What new face is this, So that's the kind of relationship I have with my girls. And must understand, Grant, that these are, it's challenging for me as a coach because I'm also quite young and new in the space. So they challenge me quite a lot, and they are better players than what I was when I was a player. So it keeps me on my toes as a coach. I constantly need to be innovative, reinvent myself, try something new. And what now have allowed over the years is for us to be able to have dialogues. Like when we're training, we are able to stop the sessions and the players can have a say or can ask a question instead of all this information coming from my side. But that shows a sense of confidence from my side now that I found my feet in the coaching space. I'm not really, no, you can't ask questions. It's this way or no way, So, and that's how we've grown. And that's also been part of our secret, if I can put it that way, to our success. And I mean, also another thing, the age gap. I'm 36. Some of my players are 23, 24. So the gap is not that big, So you also have to understand who they are, where they are, and what's actually important to them, and actually make them know that I've been where you are. I've been a student athlete. I understand the difficulties of trying to balance the social life, the high performance netball, the academics, and everything. But more importantly, just be accessible to your players, and I think you'll get the best, to be able to get the best out of them.
Yeah, I think having that trusting relationship is so important, and I think a lot of that is fostered and grown within the culture of the team, and I know the head coach has such a huge role to play in the culture that sits within their team, and the management also has a huge role in shaping it, and How has it been the team culture change within Marty's netball over the years, and I mean, I personally have seen a change in the netball athletes that was at Marty's, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, and the netball athlete that we have now and we see on a daily basis at the university. Your team culture, do you want to take a few minutes to just speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I bless the day I met Eugene Opelt, or we were introduced to Eugene, because if I think about when I was a player, I probably saw in the 10 years I was in the national team, if I saw a performance psychologist 5 times, it was quite a lot.
Yeah.
That was a lot. And Eugene has been literally our saving grace. So, yes, he charges me for the one-on-ones, for the chais, because my first year I was chaying almost every month. I'm like, I need a chai, I need a chai. But so what he did is he sort of, I mean, we had a theme for every year, and it got to a point where, as a coach, all I need to focus on is the coaching.
Yeah.
And it was the most liberating space to be in. And the players started taking responsibility, started taking ownership. This is their sport. This is their craft. This is their grind.
Yeah.
And also the honesty that started coming in. Where we always spoke and said we want to win, but do you understand what it's going to cost?
Yeah.
For you to have that medal around your neck, And the nice thing is that they're all students, so it's not like others are working. Everybody's sacrificing, So there's a lot of things that he introduced, and the players really bought into it, and we as management as well had to lead by example, And I really believe that there's really wisdom in a council of many, Myself, Monet, Adele, Karen, Chalet, Keegan, Heavy. We really had to understand, guys, we need to speak the same language in order for this thing to work. There can't be any loopholes, And I mean, now you look at us now in 2019, when we were preparing for the final, for example, there was just no. Everything was in place. The players knew what needed to be done. They showed up. We changed it up. I mean, we'd have like morning sessions instead of like having S&C sessions in the morning. We'll have court netball one-on-one, walk it out in the mornings, early in the mornings. There was no complaining or anything. Everybody just knew what we were about, where our focus is, and everybody put their best foot forward.
Yeah.
And the players had a sense of confidence, and they had freedom, and that's some of the stuff that we've brought into our team culture. We're really about each other, and one of the things is all we need is each other, and every answer to any question thrown at us lies amongst us. And I think that's something that we've really mastered and done. Sorry, how can I forget to mention my beautiful physio, Greshna? What can I say? If those tiny hands keep those big bodies going, hey, I'm telling you now. Yeah. So we really mastered quite a lot of things, and I mean, granted, there's a picture that's not even here, but a crucial time, just to talk about team culture, a crucial time last year, just before we played the semi-finals against Kofsis. There was an altercation between one of the players and myself, a senior player, key player in our team, looked at as the glue and whatever. And Zanele 3 years ago, 2 years ago, would have completely lost the plot. If things like that happened. And Eugene's teachings, and not only to the players but to myself, turned that situation around. I mean, there's a picture. It was on one of the slides, and then it's not here now, but we actually have looked like we were in a boxing match. The way we were all crying. So I had my senior group come in. So we also had a leadership group that we set up, and those are the girls that lead by example, show up, never drop the ball, and our captain is also part of that. And this player had the confidence to tell me, Coach, this is what I feel. This is what has been bothering me. This is what is affecting me. And her honesty, literally, I stood there and I sat there and I thought to myself, oh my goodness. And I just took it all in. I said to her, I sincerely apologize for making you feel that way. You know, that to me showed growth. Because one would be quick to want to say, no, but I didn't mean it this way, blah, 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 and try and justify. But she's saying to you, this is how you make her feel. This is how she's feeling. Take what she's saying and just take it in, you know? And I promise you, Grant, we got on that plane. We went to play Pofsies, the second, like just the weekend before they'd beaten us.
Yeah.
And we played them again in Free State. And if it wasn't for that day, I promise you, and it changed the whole energy in the team, the mood. It was unbelievable. So those are some of the things that we've brought that are happening and are working well in our team, not only the players but also the management and the coaches as well.
I think when the players are invested in the program and they get to have input, the program can only go forward, and it certainly seems like that is part of the culture that you're helping to cultivate within the netball program. Just from a time point of view, we're going to move on to the next slide, and this is just the multi-sport high performance program, and what has that afforded you as a head coach, and allowed your student athletes to be as best prepared as they could be going into a tournament, taking into account that these are amateur athletes, these are not professional athletes. And so can you maybe take us through some of the things that have really stood out for you as being fundamental factors in helping your athletes be the best that they can be?
Wow. Okay. Firstly, the program is obviously, as we know, it's coach led, but it's player centered. So the most important people are the players. And for me, I'm a coach who likes to push the limit. I like to push the limit. And one thing that I am very grateful for is the open door policy that I have at Marty's, with either with Sean or with the boss in Elam, or Jerry or Karen, where I'm able. I mean, I'm probably coming with the most ridiculous thing, but I'm gonna go there anyway. I'm gonna drop the ball on the table, But they're always willing to listen and always want to understand, coach, why would you want this? And they make sure that they do their best to try and give me what I want, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna say, well, you didn't give me this, and that's why we're not performing. If you look at our high performance program, I mean, I was a national athlete, and half of the stuff that's here I never had, and we had to play against the best teams in the world. And these are just students that are studying but play netball at such a high level. And what a comprehensive program we have. We've got strength and conditioning, vision training, which is something that is brilliant for netball players. I'm able to bring in an analyst, someone who can give me solutions and give me answers now while we sit next to me on the bench and the match is going on. We don't have to wait until we get back home to analyze the game, because we need the answers now. And that's what Marty's Netball has really allowed me to do, to the freedom to do that. I mean, if you look at our physio Greshna, always on the ball, anytime. Players can access her. We've got doctors. Our players can go to chiros, can go to biokineticists, make sure we deal with their injuries. They're very spoiled, actually, extremely spoiled. I come from a university where majority of these things weren't there. And we look at bursaries, the amounts we get, and compare them to what other universities have. I mean, we're able to really draw good quality players, with what we can put forward when it comes to. But it's like players come to Marty's, let's say they're a level 2 player. They leave here, level 1+.
Yeah.
We make sure we mold them that by the time they leave here and they want to continue playing maybe for senior provincial teams or national teams, but this program is so holistic. It covers everything and it prepares them, for them to decide if they want to ultimately take the international or national path where netball is concerned.
Yeah. I think that, one of the things that becomes, and it doesn't matter what sport code it is, and I'm sure you'd probably agree with me when I say that, is that if you come to Stellenbosch University, you will walk away with a quality degree on education, but you will also leave being a very much improved athlete.
Athlete.
No matter what sports code it is, whether you're a swimmer, whether you're a netball player or you're a rugby player, looking at these things that you've listed on the right-hand side as stuff that has been, vital in the building of your program. You can't, if you come here and you invest your energy and your time and you're committed to the program, you will leave a better player. That's for sure.
No. I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, Grant, if you look at netball, Marty's feeds the provincial teams in feeds the Western Cape teams. 80% of players are Marty's players, and it makes the job of the provincial coach very easy because the players are in a structured program. They, everything is in place. So we're just preparing them to go and represent the province.
Yes.
And then those coaches can take the credit for it.
Yeah. And Coach Zan, one of your points here is your interaction with other coaches at Marty Sport. What is that like for you? And are there specific coaches that you've learned some things from, or over the years and your time at Marty's, and how important is that for you as the head coach of Marty's Netball to interact with other coaches at Marty Sport?
Very, very important. And when those coaches sessions were introduced, where we meet with Eugene and we come together and we share information and we interact, very important for me because I'm in the Kutzenberg and I was always wondering, where's everybody else hiding? Where are all the other coaches? And then began to see them around, have coffees. I mean, Coach Miyagi, he's gone now, but one person that I would call up and chat to and just get some guidance, because also looking at the success that he's had, like how did you do it? Coach Harvis, who's also not here anymore, would have coffee with him. Ryan, Coach Kimati. The only thing with Coach Kimati is that he always wants to steal my players. That's the only thing that makes me and him. He always says, Coach, I saw a nice tall girl there. I'm like, no, you can't have it. And so you get to share information and sort of get guidance from the coaches that have been here longer than you as to how things work. Very important for me. I don't like to work in isolation. I like to share information. And like I said, there's so much wisdom in the counsel of many, and you can only become better if you learn from other coaches. And I'm fortunate being in Stellenbosch. It's such a blessing because it's like the high performance hub of sport in our country. The Blitzbokke are here. The Stellenbosch Football Club is here. Some of the times I go and check what the Blitzbokke are doing with their coach, Neil Powell. I mean, before the Varsity Cup semi-finals and finals, I took a drill or two from one of their training sessions. We brought in those bags, to be able to take the knocks. So there's so much learning, and I think that interaction with our coaches is vital.
Yeah, we're very lucky in Stellenbosch, especially when it starts getting to the summer months and, all of the teams come in from overseas, and to have access and exposure to, some of the coaches that are working with a German track and field team, for example, and just to, all of those brief interactions. And I know you love having coffee with all of the coaches, just sharing some knowledge over a cup of coffee. There's so much that you can take away from it as a coach, and I agree with you. We're very lucky with where we live and where we work, that we are able to rub shoulders with some of the best coaches that are out there. Coach, thank you very much for your time today and for sharing your knowledge and your expertise. I really appreciated you having on your passion for for netball and for Marties is infectious. Whenever I speak to you, I'm energized afterwards. It's been an honor and a privilege to work with you so closely over the last couple of years, and yeah, looking forward to many years ahead. Next week, to everyone who is attending, we are speaking to Zukanya Magwa. Zukanya is a long-time friend of mine. I've seen him grow as a student and as a varsity sevens rugby player into the man that he is today. He is a crucial cog in our high performance wheel at Marty's Sport. He was also the trainer for Marty's Netball initially in the early years before Haviland Abrams joined our team, and he is currently involved with football, basketball, and athletics. So I'm sure he's got some great stories to tell us. I know he's gone on a very special journey himself, so it'll be fantastic to connect with him next week. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. If there are any questions that have come through, I'm just gonna have a look quickly in the meeting chat if anything has come through. There are a couple of questions here, Zan. Just gonna try and scan here. I think Bevan, Marty's hockey coach, asked about the current culture of netball. They have clear leadership, humanity, and connection. I think you kind of spoke to that. That's kind of touching on culture. The boss, the deputy D, Sean, has asked, what has been the most significant learning or growth piece since your appointment at Marty's?
Jeez. Jeez, that's a Sean, really? Yeah, that's really a big one. There's so many, but one that I can definitely say is, I remember my first year. I don't know how many times I cried.
Yeah.
And I can't remember myself crying last year, if I can put it that way.
Fantastic. Awesome. There are a couple of questions here from Sean. he's got them coming at you. So another question that Sean asks is your top 3 key messages to your players.
Okay. 1, now, main focus, academics. Please make sure that if you are struggling with anything, they do know that they need to make contact with us and we see where we can help them. It's important for our goals to pass because this is a new way of doing things. Mm-hmm. And secondly, keep positive. We are going to get back to the field of play. We will be between the 4 lines again. And then lastly, just stay safe and stay positive.
Fantastic. Coach Ryan Bailey from Marty's Cricket has asked, how do you deal with characters in your squad which could be termed as mavericks and maybe don't conform to your team culture or the discipline within your team? I don't know if you've experienced that. I'm sure you have as a coach. How did you react, or how did you deal with those players?
Okay, well, the first time I encountered something like that, I didn't deal with it very well because for me, it's like, it's not about you. This is about the team, you know? Then I think if you respond that way, then you're like challenging that maverick, you're challenging that player, and then that negative energy sort of spreads. And then fortunately, I've got someone like Eugene, who I took that to, and I was like, listen, this is what we're having here. What's the best way to approach the situation, you know, because I played with a lot of mavericks, but never really had these kind of attitudes, if I can put it that way, you know. And Eugene was very instrumental in guiding me and as to how to do that. So one-on-one, sitting with a player, and one of the things I learned that I had to do as a coach is to make the tough calls, is to have the uncomfortable conversations with my player, you know. So I'm a coffee person, one-on-one, let's sit, let's talk. What's the issue? I put it down, you put it down, you know? And then before we knew it, we got to understand that we have the same goal, but we might not necessarily get to the the same way. But it's
Yes.
a matter of understanding what is important. And what is important is, coach, I do have the team's best interest at heart, but this is how I function. If you want the best out of me, this is the kind of environment I want, or I will flourish in. Then we learn to create that kind of things for a player.
Cool, fantastic. And then, coach, I always try and ask this question. Your best sports-related book that you have read that has given you some wisdom with regards to coaching that you've applied within the Marty sports space?
I think it's actually here. No, let me just pull it out. It's like literally, this is it. Oh, I've read it a couple of times, but I can't stop. This is it. It's called Relentless.
Okay.
By T.S. Grover. From good to great to unstoppable. And this is basically who we are. This is the kind of team that we are building moving forward at Marty's for the next years to come, to be an unstoppable team. So basically, this guy, he was the S&C for Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and he just basically talks about those players like the Mavericks, the players that are just so brilliant, how to deal with them and how to get the best out of them.
Yeah, fantastic. That's I'll definitely add that to my reading list. I'm getting more and more books every week that we do this, so I'm gonna have to start doing some reading. Thankfully, we've got a little bit more extra time available due to the lockdown. Coach, once again, thank you very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. It's been fantastic chatting to you. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. We had guests from all over the country, as well as a lot of our local schools in and around Stellenbosch. It was fantastic. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Please tune in next week where we chat with Zukanya Magwa. I will be sending out the email invitations to everyone within the next few days or before the end of the week. Coach Zan, once again, thank you very much. It's been amazing chatting to you.
Much, Grant. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thanks.
Keep well.
You're a legend. You're a legend.
Thanks, Sean.